Wilbur Soot, a man who went from a drug dealer to a president to an anarchist to finally a ghost. He has carried so many different roles on the server, each providing a unique impact on the SMP. As one of the most interesting characters on the server, his legacy will long be remembered. His character is also the perfect showcase of a fall from grace. His actions lead him to becoming the quote-unquote main character of the first major arc, and whether he was a protagonist or an antagonist is up to you. His actions all make sense when you look at them, and never feel out of place. Wilbur Soot, the human being, the YouTuber, acts out his role so well that it's really hard to find moments where it doesn't feel like he's his character on the server, which is really rare to find, and it's a really interesting skill. So anyways, let's dive into the exciting life and death of Wilbur Soot. Wilbur Soot originally joined the server with one goal: to make money off of drugs. The man who would later go on to do some incredible things started by scamming people. What a life. It seemed like he was just going to be another Tommy, doing things for the sake of them, completely ignoring the repercussions. This was not the case. He founded a nation, and by his second stream, things had ramped up to the extreme. After realizing that most of his enemies were American, he created the Manberg. He gathered allies in the form of Tommy, Tubbo, Fundy, and Eret, and he prepared to take on the rest of the SMP. His actions showed a true determination towards his goal, unfazed by the looming threat. The war did start badly though, as they lost the first battle at Tommy's power tower. They remained in high spirits, with the leadership of Tommy and Wilbur keeping the morale high. But then came the crushing blow from Eret, and he brought the revolution to its knees. His betrayal cost them everything that could have given them a chance. Their armor, their weapons, even one cannon life. And even then, Eret's betrayal continued in the form of TNT shredding apart their land. When negotiations failed, only a final bow duel with Tommy and Dream could save them. And then it didn't. Luckily, Tommy pulled out the stops and sacrificed his discs, saving the country and allowing them to become independent. And Wilbur had done it. This was something that no other person on the server had done before. He had declared their freedom and managed to continue and create this new place. It was quite the feat. It was his finest moment. He had found allies who had helped him pull through, even though Eret was there, but they came out victorious in the end. His character had become the underdog president who had won against all odds. But this was the peak of his character, and with every peak comes a fall. Even though Wilbur seemed like the pinnacle of good, there was one fault. He was kind of a tyrant. He hadn't really been democratically elected. So, he decides to hold a rigged election. Still not the most democratic thing, but better than just becoming a tyrant. He didn't exactly account for Quackity though, as Quackity proceeds to just enter into the election before the voting ballots close. This leads to a debate that can be boiled down to Tommy messing around while Wilbur tries to actually win the debate. After this comes the speeches. The turning point, the pinnacle of where everything starts to go wrong. Wilbur and Tommy, with hubris in their eyes, call on their celebrity endorser, Jay Schlatt. Wilbur believes that with the combined might of his identity as founder and Schlatt's endorsement, they will easily sweep the competition. This plan was an absolute failure, as Schlatt turned against them, starting his own political party. Wilbur desperately tries to convince Quackity to band together so that, they can at least win. But his selfish bid for power, with him trying to, force Quackity out by, doing something with the votes, leaves Quackity to do the opposite and join Schlatt. Then comes the election day. The votes are in from Twitter, and Wilbur's ego begins the reason to why he falls. If he had just accepted that deal with Quackity, the 1% vote through their combined effort wouldn't have crushed his reign. After being stripped to the position he fought for, he is then exiled and suffers a cannon death trying to escape. He begins to plot a revolution against Schlatt with the help of Tommy, but as we know, this is just the beginning of the fall. The revolution begins rather well, actually. With the help of the Grind King Technoblade and a gift from God, along with a little spy in the form of Tubbo, they're doing pretty well. There's a few hiccups in the form of the fact that Tommy needs visas for the ninja thing, and the flag's burning down, but these are just hiccups. Tommy also does start to wear down Wilbur mentally, but that's normal Tommy stuff. But one thing starts to change Wilbur's mind on the revolution. One thing distorts his entire view on what he's doing. Schlatt's festival. Suddenly everything just breaks down around him. He realizes that he's in the wrong here. Schlatt won the election fair and square, and Wilbur's just trying to force his way back in, completely undemocratically and unjustly. His mind, reeling from the shock that he's in the wrong here, is flipped again by Tommy. Since Tommy's always in the right, if he becomes a villain, then he'd be in the right again. That's just the way it worked. And so he decides to blow up Manberg, deeming it too far gone to be redeemable. Along with this crack in his mind, paranoia begins to seep in as he starts to question if anyone is really on their side, or if they're all just going to leave the moment they feel like it's just going to fail. This leads him to team up with Dream of all people. Of all people, Dream. Sure, he isn't enough to team up with Eric yet, but they fought a damn war against each other. Anyways, as Tommy desperately tries to get through to Wilbur, but Wilbur's not getting there. He's slowly sinking further and further into insanity. Then comes the festival. The first push. Seeing everyone happy and enjoying the Manberg Festival begins to make Wilbur question whether or not he should blow up Manberg. By this point, he's already lined the place with TNT. He's ready to do it. But as the festival continues on, Tubbo dies at the hands of Techno as Wilbur scurries around to find the switch. This isn't Wilbur having memory problems. It's a manifestation of his morality. He isn't ready to blow up Manberg. He still believes, in his heart, that it's still that special place. However, his mind has taken another blow. He starts to veer towards Techno's side of anarchism, defending him against Tommy, who represents the whole take back Manberg idea. And Tommy's rightfully angry that his best friend has just been killed for no... Peer pressure is not a perfectly valid reason, let's be honest. Wilbur stopped caring about the people around him, and inciting them to fight each other, even taking joy in their battle of a pit. With Nikki now on their side, after she came with them to Parktopia, they prepare for the day of reckoning. And with strength in numbers in the form of Quackity, Eret, and Fundy, and better gear from Techno, the revolution marches on to Manberg. They stomp through Manberg/Dream's forces, and a quick surrender from Dream ends the war. They find Schlatt in the camera van, he dies of a heart attack, and the war is over. This is it. It's the moment Wilbur has been waiting for. And as Tommy gives him the position, he then hands it over to Tubbo. It's no longer his special place. He can no longer see himself happily ruling over it. And he heads to his room to blow it all up. Philza his father, tries one last time to stop him, to convince him that this is not the way, that it's still redeemable, that he can still find joy in it. But it's no use. Wilbur ends his arc in a fiery explosion, his blood dripping from his father's sword on the land he once loved and cherished. And there ends the tale of Wilbur Soot. This is the end of one of the greatest character arcs on the server. It's also the end of one of the best designed and developed characters on the server. Probably one of the best you'll ever see. His fall from president to insane anarchist is so well thought out and feels just so perfect for him. This arc was based around the character of Wilbur, and all the events helped his development flourish and create such a rich character. I don't mean rich in money, I mean rich in character, you know what I mean? He also dies in such a beautiful way. Instead of, dragging out his character and making him involved in the future thing, he just dies. He does become Ghostbur, but I'm going to go into that. Each one of his canon deaths also represents such an important moment. His first death is the beginning of the Great Nation. His second, the start of his fall into madness. And the third, finally freed from the suffering that he was being put through. Wilbur is one of the most important characters on the SMP. His founding of the Manberg and Pogtopia both led the seeds for some of the greatest conflicts the server will ever see. Wilbur's character changes so much throughout this arc, and it doesn't really happen much on the server. People normally will change, of course, but they won't do such drastic changes. So it's quite interesting to see that. It's cool how they kept his core personality of just Wilbur, but built around it and changed core and key aspects, but made sure that it was always the same person. It also helps that Wilbur Soot is a great creator whose acting and script writing greatly helped to flesh out his persona and the rest of the world. Wilbur only has two really, really important relationships on the SMP. Tommy and Fundy. Tommy is his right-hand man for the entire time on the SMP. They found the Manberg together, they're exiled together, they fight back together. Tommy looks up to Wilbur as a mentor figure, as maybe a bit of a father figure. So the betrayal Tommy must have felt when Wilbur blew up the Manberg must have been so heartbreaking. Tommy tried throughout their time in Pogtopia to be the reasonable one, something he'd never done before. He tried and tried and tried and tried to convince Wilbur that blowing up the Manberg was not the way to go. But he fails, and his final memory of his precious mentor is the destruction of the land he loves. Fundy, on the other hand, is a bit different. While Wilbur loved him as a son, it's Fundy's lines that really pushes him downwards. As he looks onto the Manberg, he sees his son start to tear down the walls that were made to protect him. Fundy proceeds to drill the knife deeper into Wilbur's heart by destroying the Manberg flag and defending Schlatt. Ultimately, Fundy joins the revolution, and even he can find Schlatt's actions are too far gone. Fundy also feels betrayed by his father, as when he dies, he had no longer as a person to fill that role. He doesn't feel ready. So he starts to look for them like people like Era to fill that. But that's another story. That's the story of when I do Fundy. Even though the story of Wilbur ends in a fiery explosion, a new character is formed from his grave. Ghostbur. Now I'm going to treat these two as separate characters, as Ghostbur only really exists so that Wilbur can still mess around in canon. Philza basically said on one of his streams that Ghostbur is just Wilbur logging on and doing whatever comes to mind. Ghostbur is an amnesiac ghost whose sole purpose is to spread happiness and blue. He has no memories of the dark things he's done and only of the friends he made along the way. He's just a really quirky and wholesome character who isn't meant to have any kind of complex development or be a part of the story. He tries to help out his friends, going with Tommy into exile so he's not all alone, trying to reconnect and reconcile with Fundy, and he just kind of vibes with Phil and Techno. It's the perfect way to keep Wilbur's arc the same while allowing Wilbur Soot, the person, to still be able to enjoy running around the SMP. Now, before the conclusion, I just want to make a quick disclaimer and quickly go over the things that I wasn't able to go over due to the fact that most of the script was written before the events that led to the destruction of Manberg, the final destruction, and the destruction itself. So Ghostbur actually shows some pretty deep emotions after Manberg gets destroyed, getting incredibly angry and sad after Phil and Techno destroy all of the things he owned and friend. He also goes to meet with Tubbo and Tommy, and they sing My Manberg, showing that he does indeed keep some form of the memories and still feels emotion towards his former home. He then does something which I really didn't expect him to do and was completely out of any form of expectations of mine, which was the fact that he asked if he could be revived. Now, I didn't see this coming. I don't know who saw this coming, but I certainly didn't. As such, that leads for a lot of things to be open with Wilbur, and for the end to be very different than what I was expecting. This is just really to catch people up on what happened there, just to make sure that I can at least cover it. Alright. In conclusion, Wilbur's character is really damn good. His arc beautifully goes through everything necessary to make sure that his character is well developed. He goes from a confident, brash president of a fledgling nation, surrounded by enemies and adversity, to a man who no longer feels like his life's work is worth saving, completely torn apart by the morals and things he had to go through. It's a beautiful story whose epilogue doesn't tarnish the tale itself. Who knows what he'll do in the future? It's currently up for grabs. But we'll probably never see a fall this dramatic on the server again. So let us all toast to the life of Wilbur Soot. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you want to watch another one like it, but on Dream, click the link on the screen. And I'm not going to be able to make another video for a while due to exams and the fact I need to revise, but I'll try my best to get one out in a relative time period. Anyways, if you want to find me in other places, I stream on Twitch, and I also have a Discord where I'm consistently active. Both are in the description below. Really hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave any criticism for me in Discord so I can talk about it. And I hope to see y'all around for the next one.